This is Changemakers with Katie Gore, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
Welcome back to my conversation with changemaker Aaron Darden, the president and CEO of the Tulsa Housing Authority. We've discussed Aaron's inspiring journey to leading the Tulsa Housing Authority and some of the major challenges he has faced so far, including the rising costs of property insurance. Now, let's discuss some good news. Aaron, congratulations on being awarded 2 significant Choice Neighborhoods implementation grants by HUD. These grants are so highly competitive and very difficult to obtain. Can you tell us more about your strategy and how these communities will take shape?
One, we're extremely thankful that we were even positioned to win not just one, but 2 Choice Neighborhoods, and winning the second one while still actively constructing the first and not being fully finished. And so I think that speaks a lot to the trust that we had built with the first Choice Neighborhoods in River West, which was two sites, a public housing site and then a PBRA site that were sitting in the target neighborhood, totaling 400 units that we tore down and we're bringing back 435. The crazy thing about that one is arrived in 2017. The very first conversation that I had with one of my board members was about Choice Neighborhoods. And the reason being is that there was a community group that had submitted and won a planning grant for that target neighborhood. And they completed it. And then now they had went out in, I think it was, 2013 or so, and competed for the Choice Neighborhoods, became a finalist, and then did not win. They were the only finalist in that particular cycle that wasn't awarded at the time. And the reason being is at the time, THA was not a partner with them, and the city of Tulsa was not a partner on that application. And so HUD came back and basically said, look, you really got to have a housing authority partner, and you really kind of have to have the city as a partner as well. And so that's why you weren't awarded. And so the conversation with that board member was, we've got this plan. We were a finalist once. Can you take that, dust it off, see if you can do something with it, and let's go after it again. And I'm like, well, I just got here, but sure, I'll look through this and we'll see what we can do. And so I looked through it. It was a good plan, but yeah, you could really see the whole, which was housing authority not involved, which had a property sitting in the target neighborhood, and then the city. And so one of the first things I went about doing was getting the city on board, which was very thankful that Mayor Bynum, it was a quick yes. Absolutely, we would love to do that and be the co-grantee. And then we started looking at really refreshing what the design was going to be, started having some more community meetings, making sure that we were capturing everything that they wanted to do, and then started updating the application and brought in our developer partner, wrapped it all up, and then submitted it. And then, was, a finalist, and then ultimately ended up winning, which was extremely exciting and was the largest investment in affordable housing in the state of Oklahoma's history with that win. And one of the ways that we were able to really kind of solidify that application, and what really kind of blew HUD away, was the philanthropic support that we had here in Tulsa, which I've never experienced anywhere for this level of philanthropic support, especially for housing. And we had the most philanthropic match in an application in that program's history. They had just never seen, the millions and millions and millions of dollars of philanthropic match that went in. And then the other thing was our state financing agency, of the Oklahoma Housing and Finance Agency, or OFA. They worked with us and they created a Choice Neighborhood set aside for us, and that moved us out of competing. And not only they upped the max award for the 9% awards, and then they allowed for us to get 2 a year, which was absolutely crucial and was a big positive for the application. And so we felt good, and we knew we had some things that were fairly unique for Choice, and that was confirmed, and we won. And so we really just got to work. And what's been fantastic about River West outside of it being the largest investment in affordable housing is the other areas, which is really the point of choice neighborhood that's really grown and improved. Before we got started, the average income for that neighborhood was about $4,000 a year, which is fairly common for a choice neighborhood. Where we are now is that average income in that neighborhood is about $24,000 a year. And that is a combination of the workforce programs that we've been working ever since the beginning and have fantastic partners who have been doing absolutely tremendous work there. Education programs participation has increased. You've got reading levels that have increased. You've got school absenteeism that has decreased. The school and the neighborhood has now become a Montessori school. And so it's just been this residual effect that has trickled out outside of the actual development itself. We've got, there was a somewhat rundown strip mall that was there across the street. There now has been millions of dollars investment there. It is also home now to the first full-service restaurant the neighborhood's ever had. And so that entire corridor economically has just started to shift and change. And then, of course, you've got the benefit of the neighborhoods to back up to it. The single-family home prices have went from an average of about $70,000 to $80,000, value of the homes to now there's houses now that are being valued over $200,000 in that neighborhood. And so it has just been this holistic change that we've seen at River West that we are just super excited. And another big thing that really just jumped out to me is that it was really the first intentional mixed income property in Tulsa. And so we had some reservations there about the market rate units. We just didn't know how that would be received. And we were just absolutely floored that in every single phase, all 6, the market rate units went first. And not only that, we have a tremendous waiting list for the market rate units. And so that model of just the mixed income has been embraced totally in that neighborhood. And it's really been fantastic to see that and see the benefits of the returning residents, which our people partner in USI, who has done these choice neighborhoods all over the country, really were blown away that we've had over 90% of the residents that relocated come back, which I think was a testament, one, to the work and the case management that was done over the 2 years or so that they were off-site. But 2, it really just speaks to, again, the product and the neighborhood and everything that has changed that really just drew those folks back to the neighborhood. And so we just have been blown away by that, blown away by the market rate units and the excitement that's generated. And so that's made us extremely hopeful for the second choice neighborhoods that we're going to be doing in a different part of town, that we would have the same success there. And then kind of to put, the last little feather in our cap there in that neighborhood, we were able to bring in a brand new YMCA that's being built there that was replacing an old warehouse of sorts that was on in the target neighborhood. And so that is under construction. It should be complete by the end of the year this year. And so that will kind of wrap everything up in River West. And we couldn't be more excited about that choice neighborhoods.
What a beautiful community development project. I mean, you hit all the success matrix. You've hit the reuse. You've hit all the personal improvements, the economic development wins. This should be a shining star, River West, for the overall grant process. So hopefully HUD has got you guys on their radar and they're showing how successful this program can be, because you guys really nailed it here.
Yeah, and we have had a lot of HUD visitors, that they have brought
sure.
Because of that very reason. And, River West was the backdrop as we were hosting all of our state legislators about a year ago and showing them and walking that community and seeing the school and all of the partners that were there. That is what really drove the Housing Stability Fund that was created with the $215 million investment from the state. It was River West and all of those wins that showed this is affordable housing. It can be done in a way where you're not going to be a blight on a community and you're not going to drag it down, but instead you're actually going to lift it up. And everybody is actually going to improve and everything is going to get better. And it's going to be affordable. And so we used that as well as we went in again for another application for an implementation grant. We spoke a lot about River West and those successes in that application, and also the tremendous partnerships with the state financing agency, with our social service providers, and then with our philanthropic partners, which the second application had even more philanthropic dollars and investment that dwarfed the first one. And that will be needed because 36 North, which is our second choice neighborhoods, is bigger at 545 units than River West. And we're extremely excited about this particular project because of its location in North Tulsa. I think a lot of people are familiar with Tulsa because of the race massacre that occurred, and it was a real blight on the city and our history. And this particular neighborhood is a neighborhood where a lot of folks after that massacre occurred were pushed towards and marginalized over the next several decades. And so we had our largest public housing site that was in this neighborhood and in this part of town. And so we went through a community planning process. We weren't sure what we were going to do there, but we did it in a manner that if we went after another choice, we would be able to use that plan. And so went through that. It took us 2 years to do all the planning and capture what people envisioned could be there and be in North Tulsa. And then we said, you know what? River West has went so well. It seems like we're still eligible to go after another grant. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. The worst thing that happens is that we just don't win. And we have another one that's still actively underway. And so we kind of understood. But I think the story was so compelling that we told in that application and for that neighborhood, HUD just couldn't say no to that opportunity. And so, yeah, we got that award. We were honored with Secretary Fudge coming herself to present us with that $50 million award toward River West. And she really kind of spoke to the synergies and things around both of those awards now, and just the excitement that she had for the North Tulsa project and seeing it come to fruition. We are close to closing that first phase, and we'll have on this site, we will have mixed use on top of the mixed income. So our first building coming out will be 100 units. It'll have commercial space on the bottom floor, which will house a fresh food market will be inside of it. And then we'll transition into the other phases, which will again be a mix of commercial and mixed use. We'll have townhomes, garden-style walk-ups, and we'll even have single-family homes that we'll be building in this community. And so you will have all housing types. There'll be an urban farm that will be there with the facility that they could do, farmers markets or things like that. And we've partnered, and there's going to be a single family home development that's going to back up to 36 North. And it's going to bring hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of single family homes that are going to be $400,000 plus homes, but are going to be subsidized with partners and philanthropic assistance to make them affordable. And so we are extremely excited about that as well coming in. And so this will change that community completely. And we're hoping that economic development will continue down that corridor and really make it a premier community for anyone to go live, which would be a vast change from the way that it's been marginalized over the decades. And so River West was fantastic and is fantastic, but I think I would say I'm even more excited about 36 North because of just the impact and where it's located. I think it's going to be, absolutely a generational change in that neighborhood.
With all of these unique inclusions in the design, whether it's the YMCA repurpose or whether it is the, the garden style apartments or the farmers market, I'm assuming you guys must have some very strong methods for including community voices, and that's translated into all of these unique inclusions. Sounds like that's another one of your success metrics. Tell us more about how you go about incorporating the current residents, the move back process. Just tell us more about adding community voices in to this development process.
Yeah, so what I learned as a property manager is that residents a lot of the times feel like they don't have a choice and they don't have a say in anything that happens. And so I learned, to include the folks who are going to be impacted in decision making. Who knows better than the people who live there every single day and who have a stake in that community? And I've took that and now applied that to the way that we go about our planning and the way that we do our development. We really don't do any type of development, whether that's a substantial rehab or if that's new construction, without having that feedback coming from the residents and all of the community stakeholders. That's critical to me. That's the only way to ensure success, in my opinion. I've visited in the past with some cities and some projects where that wasn't done. I won't name them, but where that wasn't done and they weren't successful. It wasn't that the product wasn't great. The product was fantastic, but there was absolutely zero community buy-in. And so those projects fell flat. And I truly believe the only reason that we've had the success that we've had is because we've had that level of community engagement and that level of partnership with the stakeholders, where we have not only engaged them, but we have actually taken what they've told us and we've put it into the plans. And even better yet, we now have examples where we've implemented that, which is the best thing that you could have now, because as we call these community meetings and we go in and we have these conversations, people know that we do what we say we're going to do, and that we're going to listen. And if you provide us that feedback and that engagement, you're going to see that. And so that really has, brought that goodwill with our partners and with the community that now makes it so much easier as we go to have these conversations, because we just have that credit. We walk in and, and we can point to stuff. We can say, hey, look at this now. And I think 36 North, once it gets going, because it was such an exhaustive and intense 2-year planning process, that is just going to, further cement that fact is that we told you, that we were going to do this. You picked everything, you picked the names, you picked it, all of it. And now we're going to go and we're going to make it a reality for you. And so, as long as I'm here, that will continue to be the way that we do our planning and our development. And, I just can't imagine that changing.
What an authentic approach to development. Great job that you guys are doing there. I'm sure the community was probably skeptical at first, but like you said, you've pointed to your successes and you guys have delivered.
Skeptical? Yes. Probably a little bit more that, the first few meetings, especially up north at Comanche, the old Comanche site, you could almost hear the eye rolling as we are now the next group of folks who are before them, talking to them about all of this change. And historically, it had all just been lip service and nothing had really ever happened. And so even the demolition of that site was a big deal because, that was that visual proof like, wow, yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about, and there it goes, it's gone. And so, it matters, it mattered that we actually had things that we could do. It matters early on in the process that you find those action items that you could start doing, because that belief is absolutely necessary. And you've got to start to get that buy-in from folks.
I read about 2 other of your communities, Sunset Plaza Apartments and Pioneer Plaza. Tell us more about what's happening with those.
Sunset Plaza and Pioneer both are located right next to our central office. So our central office sits right in between those 2 sites. Sunset, was a PBRA site that was owned by an out-of-state ownership group that was not being managed well. The site was effectively abandoned, and the tenants were left to just sit there. It was very difficult for us because we are literally driving in and out and passing these apartments and these residents every single day. There was even time with the basketball court, everything was overgrown. There was no goals up. And I drove by as I'm leaving work and I see kids and they're just standing there on the basketball court with a basketball, just standing. And so the next day I get into work, had our asset manager go buy basketball goals and put them up on that court. Even though it's not our site, it hurt my heart to see that. And so we got those put up, but it got so bad, and it got to a point that HUD approached us and said, hey, enough's enough. We're going to abate the HAP contract that's here. We would love if you would help spearhead the relocation of all the tenants. So we agreed to do that, and we started that process of getting the tenant protection vouchers and getting those folks relocated out, which started with a lot of meetings because obviously they were confused. They didn't know what was going on. No one had been there for a year on site, and so water was being turned off by the city, and so we had to work with the city to leave the water turned on. And that's when the city then approaches us and said, "Hey, this is a public nuisance. We're gonna get it, deemed a public nuisance. What do you have? What can you do to help us here? This is a non-responsive out-of-state owner. Enough's enough for us." And so, we started looking at what we had and some of the options, and where we settled and working with HUD and working with the city was we would pursue eminent domain and use eminent domain to condemn the site and then take ownership of the property. And so that's what we did. We did that over last summer, went through that whole entire process. As you can imagine, there was not a lot of response or pushback from the owner. And so the eminent domain actually went fairly quickly. And so we obtained ownership of the property, got everybody relocated out, and they're all, went to places, higher opportunity places in the city. And so they are in a better place. And then we just went on and demolished the property because it was in such poor condition. And now we have a site that's near downtown with amazing views sitting up on a hill that we have an opportunity to bring back a few hundred affordable units there. And that's what we're currently working on. So working with our philanthropic partners, as always, in the city, as we're trying to put together the funds. As we kind of open with, it's extremely challenging right now to make a deal work, but we're still doing a lot of the pre-development work on the project, and we're going to be ready to go if we are able to obtain some of the gap filling funds that we're going to need to make it work. But we've renamed it the Hilltop, and super excited about the opportunity that we have there. Pioneer is an 11-story senior and disabled property. Pioneer was one of our first RAD conversions, but it was an ops conversion only. And we thought that we had a little bit longer time before we would actually have to go and do some type of rehab on that building. But literally the year that we converted it, we had the deep freeze that hit this part of the country that just caused chaos with pipes bursting and all of that other stuff. We had a fire that completely burned out an entire floor. Luckily, no one was injured. And then we had a resident flood their unit, which they were on the 11th floor, flooded down literally the entire building. So we had those three significant events that just caused damage that forced our hand and started looking at a rehab. Beginning of last year, we closed on the rehab for Pioneer, which is about a $60 million rehab for that project. And so it is underway. We have delivered 2 floors back already, and extremely pleased with the way the units are turning out. They look fantastic. The residents are extremely happy and excited about the new units. And so, we feel good, even though it wasn't when we were planning on doing it, being able to reposition that elderly disabled building and setting it up for another, hopefully 20, 25 year run there. And so without that and, the systems failing and all of that, that particular population they would be on the street like a lot of folks. There's not a lot of places for the elderly and disabled on the fixed incomes to be able to go here in the city. And so we wanted to make sure that we put that investment in and secured such a large space for those folks moving forward.
Excellent job there. And what a unique set of circumstances that you're having to go through with those renovations. So very impressive, just packaging the financing and making that happen. You must have an amazing team to help with all of this development and renovation that's happening. Tell us some about your team and how you've been able to keep everybody on the same page mission-wise and just the details of this, because your leadership is so impressive. And how are you keeping your team together and marching forward?
When I got here in 2017, THA was not in a great place. They were coming off a bit of a scandal involving some REAC inspections that was very public. And it caused the entire leadership team to be turned over here at the Housing Authority, including the board, everything. So really was kind of starting from scratch when I got here. And THA had been so insular and zero partnerships, just focused on checking the box of public housing program. And as long as they did that, they were fine. And so no real strategic plan. There was, as I mentioned previously, there was absolutely no development department at all. And the thought of development was just foreign. There was no way they were going to do that. And so when I got here, it really was just starting to build. And what I found is that the people who were still here were fantastic folks because they had survived some pretty rough times and some pretty rough leadership. And they were still here because they were just that committed to the mission and helping folks. And for me, if you've got that type of attitude, we can work on everything else and we can build with that. But that's key. And so there was a lot of that was here. And so I immediately started promoting some folks internally up into the executive team. But then, I also realized that there were just a lot of gaps that needed to be filled and positions that just needed to be created. And so went about figuring out what those positions were and then going and finding the talent to be able to do it. I struggled to find that talent here in Oklahoma because there just wasn't a lot of those folks here that were doing that type of work. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to attract people from all over the country. And especially in the development team, I was able to bring, someone that I worked with at the Housing Authority in Nashville that I was able to sell Tulsa over Nashville and come here. I was able to convince, another to come in from Denver as they were working in the mayor's office there in Denver doing some housing work there, and was able to sell them to come and work here in Tulsa. And then, we've got folks from Los Angeles now that we've attracted in, and then on the East Coast as well, Philadelphia. And so just been super fortunate that laid out the path and the vision, and those folks believed enough in that and believed enough in me and what we were going to do to take a risk and take a chance to come to a state and a city that never thought they would be in. And, I think I would be in that bucket as well, and really just buy in and do the work. And so that's allowed for us to be able to be so successful and push out as many units and things that we've done in a very short period of time is because we just brought that expertise from big cities and brought them here, and everybody was willing to just buy in and do the work. And so, I wish I could say, take the credit. I really can't. All I did was just say, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? Does this sound exciting enough? And they really are the ones who have really spearheaded these efforts. And so I can't thank them enough and show enough appreciation, because the work that they do every single day is just tremendous, because it's not easy. What we do is hard. And putting together affordable deals is hard. And then, having the asset management side and that team that can take now properties that they're not accustomed to managing and still being successful, has also been just a vital piece in that as well. So, I'd be remiss not to mention our property management team and compliance team who work with development and construction, and tell them what they need. And then once they get it handed over to them, they're able to maintain the asset, make sure that investors are happy and residents are happy and all of that.
Well, Aaron, it has been a pleasure having you here and hearing the success stories of you and your team and the great things that are happening in Tulsa. I really appreciate you sharing your strategic direction and your vision. I've been talking with Aaron Darden, the president and CEO of the Tulsa Housing Authority. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate having the opportunity to speak to you.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Gore. To find out more about Katie, go to quadel.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.